The idea of psychics has presumably existed since the beginning of human society. Using different mediums such as stars, numbers, palms, and especially cards, psychic readings can look into a person's very soul, or even the future. Tarot decks are among the most popular devices that psychic mediums use to perform their readings. It's not completely known when these cards first started being used for this purpose, but it's often stated it originated in Italy sometime in the 14th century. My name is Xander Lord. I'm 21 years old and currently a student at UNC Asheville. Recently, I've become interested in psychic culture. Maybe it's because I live in Asheville, an epicenter of alternative culture that includes such practices. Or maybe it has to do with my family. When I was younger, my mom would often talk with and interview psychic mediums to gain inspiration for her stories she would write. Or maybe it goes even deeper than that. Either way, there was something very specific I wanted to learn. Should I receive a psychic reading? No matter what we found out, my crew and I decided we were going to open the third eye and learn more about psychics. The start of our journey took me to a local pagan shop, Raven & Crone. Inside, I got my first real taste of what Asheville's psychic culture was like. Between the statues made to represent gods, ingredients for rituals, and gilded chicken feet, I was beginning to outline a picture of what to expect in my mind. When we were filming this series of shelves at the back of the store, an employee who preferred to remain anonymous revealed to us it was actually an altar.
The goddess pictured there is Hecate, and she's a triple goddess, but she is also guardian of the crossroads, the underworld. She is associated with those who have been lost. When we first set up this altar, I don't think the owner had any idea that people would just start leaving things. Vigils are a big part of most pagan and witch practices.
This is when we found out a local tarot reader was coming to the store that same day, and she was more than willing to talk with us about her work.
I'm Shifra Nierenberg, and my company is Spiral Intuitive, and I am an intuitive advisor, so I help all sorts of folks connect with their own intuition, and also am really good at giving advice and helping people on their journeys, whether it's spiritual or otherwise. I was born with a metaphysical bent, to the point that I don't remember a time when I was not interested in the spiritual, the energetic. So yeah, I can't remember a time in this life that I was not aware somehow of other things than just what was seen and touched.
So tell me a little bit about running your business. What is it like?
Getting to help a lot of people in a lot of different places, and I love that, especially with technology now, I can do Zoom and phone sessions really easily. So I've got clients all over, actually. And then I also do readings here at Raven & Crone, which is lovely, and it's fun. But all of it really, all of that is to say that I firmly believe and know that humans are born with intuition. We're just conditioned out of it. And so part of my work is making intuition mainstream again, because when we make decisions that are rooted and grounded in our intuition and in our hearts, then we make good decisions for ourselves and for others and for the world, and that ripples out, and that's a beautiful thing, and the world could certainly use more of it.
I couldn't have asked for a better introduction into psychic culture than Shifra, but she said one thing after the interview that really stuck with me, that all psychics read differently. We decided we should meet with more readers to further our understanding of psychics. We reached out to various psychic readers in the Asheville area and heard back from Kelly Palmatier, who was excited to speak with us. Kelly is a renowned psychic who often specializes in contacting spirits. She even speaks at conferences across the country. We were psyched that someone like her was willing to speak with us.
Hi, Xander. I'm Kelly Palmatier. My zodiac sign is Cancer. My profession is I'm a psychic medium.
How would you describe the psychic culture here in Asheville, specifically?
Well, Asheville Asheville is a really cool town in a lot of ways. And one thing that I've always described about Asheville is that in Asheville, you can be whoever you are. And so I feel that that goes for the psychic world as well as anything else that's kind of quirky and outside of your typical traditional type of professions. There is also the theory that because of the way the granite lies in or under Asheville, that we do have this vortex. So some people talk about how the energy in Asheville is particularly conducive to psychic phenomena.
Why should or would someone receive a reading?
Well, it's up to the individual. I have some clients who get a reading just for the fun of it. Plenty of people will come because they're visiting Asheville, it's the vortex, right? Let's do something fun. And I have people who will come maybe once a year on their birthday just for some guidance. But for most people, they'll get a psychic reading when they're at a crossroads. They need some guidance, some intuition around a particular issue. Or in the case of mediumship, I definitely see a lot of customers come to me when they're particularly grieving and they want some closure.
Kelly had a lot to teach me, but what stuck with me most is Asheville being known as the Vortex. Somehow after 3 years of living here, I'd never heard that before, but it makes a whole lot of sense. Asheville is very distinct with the kinds of people that come here. Maybe it is for a reason. Perhaps there's some grand spiritual plan to bring special people from all over the world to one central place. Or maybe it's just a hot spot with some good bars and food. Either way, I'm enamored with that idea. However, at this point, we decided to take a turn in our journey. Though it's important to hear about the personal experiences of those who participate in psychic culture, what about those outside of it? There's tons of groups that don't believe in these practices, and it's important to hear from them as well. As such, we were able to meet with Jim Curtis, the assistant pastor at Covenant Reformed, a Presbyterian church here in Asheville.
My name is Jim Curtis, and I'm the assistant pastor here at Covenant Reformed Presbyterian Church.
Then the big question, what are your feelings on the mystic arts?
Yeah, so the mystic arts, depending on who you talk to, can be sort of broadly defined, narrowly defined. I would say my personal thoughts on them really sort of try and come out of the Bible. As evangelical Christian, we believe in the Bible tells us about mystical arts, or it uses all sorts of language like divination and other things, is that ultimately God created everything, and that in his creation he did create a supernatural side to creation. We affirm, the existence of angels and demons and spiritual beings. And so depending on exactly what somebody might say or affirm, we might respond a little differently to them. But that ultimately everything is under the control of God's creation and his rule over everything.
So would you refer to yourself as maybe skeptical of any of these kinds of practices, specifically maybe tarot reading or psychic mediums,
Sure.
perhaps?
I don't know that I'd use the word skeptical, though I do believe, just about with everything, that there are those out there, using sort of the guise of that to do something else. Mm-hmm. But I would say that they're definitely, palm reading, tarot reading, the crystal balls, maybe a little too stereotypical, but something along those lines. They are messing with sort of a reality out there. They're interacting with a reality out there. Mm-hmm. So just like any profession, I think there are people out there sort of using it for personal gain rather than sort of interacting with that on a real level.
So would you advise somebody to go to someone like this,
Yeah.
a psychic medium or tarot reader of some sort?
Yeah, so as an evangelical Christian, I believe that the Bible gives us all that we need for life and godliness. And so because of that, I would encourage folks to go to the revealed word that God has given to us. I wouldn't encourage us to go into a situation where we might be sort of calling on those in the supernatural realm. I wouldn't encourage that, mainly because the way that the Bible speaks of that realm is in terms of warfare. And so because of that, the Bible warns us against sort of, interacting with them a bit too freely. So no, I personally would not encourage anyone to engage in that. I know a lot of people can think we just think it's all a hoax, but I do believe that the Bible really tells us not only that it's real, but that it's also truly dangerous.
I was very happy that we were able to meet with someone so kind, respectful, and understandable as Jim. Though I recall going to church as a child, my family was never explicitly religious, though my mom and dad always made sure to be respectful of religion even if they didn't completely understand it. Meeting with Jim made it clear to me that these disagreements didn't start with anger or hatred, but simply a difference in faith. After all, for everything one faith believes in, another will believe the opposite. It's up to individual people to make their decisions on what they truly believe.
Hey, son.
Hi, Mom.
What's going on?
Not much. I just wanted to call and see how you were doing.
Doing pretty good.
That's good. I heard you have surgery on Monday.
Yep. Last one, I hope.
That's good.
Yeah, tell me about it.
Yeah.
Get it over with.
Are you still need to, go to the hospital? A little less than a year ago, my mother was diagnosed with breast cancer. Needless to say, it shook our family. In a way, it was kind of a wake-up moment for me. I realized that there are certain things in the world that can't be predicted, things that just happen. There are certain points where you need to come to grips with things that are larger than ourselves. In those times, there are very few things to turn to. Of course, I'd like to say I could have complete faith in modern medicine and how far technology has come, but if emotions could be completely influenced by logic, the world would be a very different place. So in times like this, people need to turn their faith to other things. Maybe religion or just a vague sense of hope. People just need something to help. So I finally made my decision. I'm going to receive a psychic reading to see what that hope is really like. But who to do it? We'd met with some fantastic people who could perform these readings, but I feel like I only need one. Luckily, we still had one more person to meet with, a student here at Asheville named Kira King. I've always had a thing about giving the new generation a chance, and Kira is the exact kind of person I'd like to help practice reading. But first, I wanted to hear about their life.
My name is Kira. I'm currently a ceramics major, and my zodiac sign is actually Pisces.
What inclined you to become involved in psychic activity?
Personally for me, I've found that intuition and psychic abilities have kind of always run on my father's side of the family. So from a very young age, I had been told things like ghost stories and about my great-grandmother who had practiced witchcraft. And, of course, the typical stories about Ouija boards that wouldn't ever leave. So at 15, I got my first deck of tarot cards and picked up witchcraft, and ever since it just kind of stuck.
So what's it like doing witchcraft here in Asheville, or especially on this campus?
A lot of people here seem to follow a lot of Irish superstitions. The Fae seem to be very active here. A lot of people mention them. And there's a lot of people who practice various types of witchcraft. It's just, you can find a little bit of everything here, which is insane.
Have you ever heard Asheville referred to as the vortex at all?
I feel like I've heard it mentioned in passing, and even though I kind of, I didn't know what that meant, I was like, yeah, seems fitting. It just seems like a little bit of everything kind of ends up here.
Why should or would someone receive a reading?
Some people are just curious to know what it's like, and I totally understand that. Curiosity is natural. But for other people, they're seeking advice or answers that they haven't been able to find elsewhere, and potentially may be able to have this question answered by divination, being able to connect to some sort of higher being that could enlighten them to get advice somewhat from beyond.
With this, I could finally receive the reading I've been waiting for.
So I've been shuffling the cards and the deck has been cleansed, so I'm going to go ahead and hand this to you. Mm-hmm. And you're going to ask your question you would like answered.
Will my mother be okay?
All right, now go ahead and shuffle them until you feel that they're good enough.
Thank you.
All right. So this is card 1, the Ace of Swords, and this represents the current situation at hand. So this one represents success and clear communication going on. This is your possibilities card. So that would be the Five of Swords. So this card represents great strife and conflict. It's somewhat of a warning, telling you that if you continue down this path, rather than focusing on the positives here, this is a possible outcome. So whatever's going on here, it could potentially have a negative ending. Moving on, we have near future, which is the Two of Cups. This one generally would represent a couple or a relationship flourishing, but since this question was about your mom, I think this card may instead represent the two of you flourishing and being okay. It's an abundance of love, laughter, and happiness. Next we have card 7, Power, which is the Six of Cups. So this card actually represents nostalgia and happy memories. What you need in this situation to keep your strength is going to be leaning into these old memories that you have and hanging on to them. The 8th card is going to be your environment, and that currently is the Six of Swords. The Six of Swords represents a turning point in your life. However, it's a turning point for the positive, meaning that things are about to get better. 9 is going to be your hopes, which is the Knight of Wands. So this card represents a person in your life. They're young, full of life, and very hopeful. And I think in this scenario, that card to me feels like it should represent you. Something tells me that the hope here is that you and everyone you care about is going to come out of the situation stronger and better. And then the final card is, of course, the outcome, which is the Nine of Swords. The Nine of Swords is the end of a very rough journey. It's full of anxiety, doubt, depression, possibly nightmares. However, this card represents that you will have something to hang on to, something that you're going to be able to look back on and learn from moving forward. So it's going to be hard, but there will be a happy ending.
I'd finally gotten what I'd wanted. Did it make me a believer? Maybe, maybe not. Only time will really tell. I like to consider myself an open person, but I'm more than grateful that I was able to meet these fantastic people. There's a rich psychic culture, not just here in Asheville, but all over the world. A culture I have a newfound understanding and respect for. But was the reading what I really wanted? Or did I just want that sense of hope that I found from other people? Whether it was seeing the culture, participating in the reading, or just meeting all of these kind people, I feel better. I feel like I have that coveted sense of hope. If that hope is undeserved depends on the person, but I ask this. If one believes a kind of hope to be fake, but it feels real to the one who needs it, is it really fake?